Hello, everyone, and welcome to Makersplace in Whale, Artist Fireside Chat with Irish Multidisciplinary Artist Eoin, who is partnered with the cultural placemaking collective Mend, an artist collective subset, to curate and host Ireland's first ever physical NFT exhibition, Comhartha, which means token in Irish. Eoin, thank you so much for joining us today.
All right, thanks for having me.
I see you were literally in the car, pulled over on the side of the road. Evidently, we caught you en route to the exhibtion. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's funny. I put a thing on Twitter there. I was like, I'm pulling a Paddy Stash on this because he always does his his breakdowns in the car and stuff. So yeah, I'm en route, but hit rush hour traffic, so it's not ideal.
Well, thank you for taking the time. We really appreciate it, and definitely want to learn more about this exhibition and what it means to Ireland and to you. But before that, could you just tell us a little bit about yourself and walk us through your background and journey in art?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like I've never had anything else in my life that wasn't art, so I never transitioned from anything else. So I basically studied fine art sculpture in university, then was going to go into bronze when I graduated, and learned that through a foundry, the artist doesn't actually have a huge amount of actual work in the finished product. So moved away from that, started painting canvases. Then the canvases got bigger and bigger over time. And then I remember one night, so like when I was younger, I used to mess around with graffiti and stuff and got in trouble, so I stopped. And then I remember one night there was a building site down the road from where I was living. So I grabbed, I don't know, it must have been like 40 liters of bucket paint, brought it down to the site, did my first wall. And from that point on, like, scale was a massive thing for me. So I just wanted to go bigger and bigger. Then I started using spray paint. Then things started getting considered street art, and kind of got involved in that world. Then it sort of developed into painting. I mean, if you look back through the timeline, like the video playing, there's kind of, it's got like portrait elements to it. So I was painting them in these like really obscure places around the world. And so that was mainly the eyes. And then I started painting hair onto the character. And then the hair then developed into this free-flowing like letter form kind of image, and then that then transitioned into the painting being more of like a record of movement rather than directly being letters. That's sort of how I look at it. And then started doing a few shows up until like 2018. I had a few solo shows, and then I suppose COVID hit, so everything just kind of went silent. The art world shut down, and a friend of mine had just gotten a Quest 2, so it was like, oh, I should have a go on this. And I remember hearing about a tilt brush, and I was like, oh, that could be interesting, like have a go of it. Tried it out, wasn't for me, but I then found Gravity Sketch, and like basically within 5 minutes of putting the headset on, I was standing in front of this object that I had visualized for the past 10 or 12 years. And it was such a trip. Like immediately, I was like, this is something special. And I just couldn't, like, I couldn't fathom it was an unboundless avenue of creativity. And then I saw how my work could transition into the NFT space. I remember hearing about it maybe in September, October last year, and I was like, oh yeah, it sounds cool, but I couldn't see how, the paintings I was doing, I couldn't understand at the time how it could be tokenized. I guess at the time everything was digital, purely digital. There was no physical work or painting and stuff at the time, but maybe I'm wrong. But so then when I was building these objects, and I kind of blended the traditional photography that I'd been using for years smashed it together in this kind of analog digital mashup, and that was sort of the beginning of this next stage in sort of my path in this crazy art world. And like, I'm just at the moment, I'm just super fascinated with the way that these digital sculptures. I'm working with a platform called Illuspace, and they can geolocate the sculptures anywhere you want in the world. So I'm finding that really interesting, because that object exists in a very specific point, but you can't see it until you have like a digital device to access that other realm. That's how I'm sort of looking at it. And I suppose when the AR glasses and stuff start coming out, that'll be when that transition between the digital and the physical world will really start, I think, becoming super interesting, and it'll kind of bring that boundary closer together, you know. So yeah, that's where I'm at.
That's an incredible progression there, right? Like, I don't frequently hear of people coming to this point with these almost, carefully sculpted, generative type of things that are human generated, but still, kind of a flowing form sculpture, genesis of the artist being in street art, right, and running around and with spray cans and putting up burners. So I think that's an incredible testament to your talent, that diversification kind of led you here, and you continue to experiment. I see so many things that you're doing with AR and VR, and looking at the boundaries and what's possible. And you talk about the tying to a physical place and the treasure hunts and things of that nature.
I mean, I just find the whole blending between multiple realms. I find it so interesting, that. So with a bunch of the pieces I did, I had the render of the animated render. Then I would have the AR sculpture that I could place in the exact spot that I had rendered the image to look like. And then I could also 3D scan that area, and somebody could walk around it in VR anywhere in the world. Like, it's crazy to me that stuff is possible. And I always wanted to bring people into the abandoned buildings that I was painting in. But the only way I could do that was through photography. And now I can actually bring that room to them through VR. So yeah, I find it fascinating that that's possible,
So, did you always want to become an artist, or it just became your passion and kind of the road you chose at some point?
No, it's like, I always laugh at the fact. So my mother always told me when I would have been 3 years old at the time, but I remember seeing, I have a very vivid, it's like burned into my being, that I saw this painting in the National Gallery in Dublin called The Opening of the Sixth Seal by Francis Danby. And it's basically, as far as I understand it, it's like an image of the world being torn apart and this person surrendering to a greater force. But it's a really dark image, and this the lightning bolt specifically is what sticks out to me. But that was when I was 3 years old, and my mother tells me, like, I wanted to bring all my friends to see the painting for my 4th birthday, and she was like, "No, we'll have a party, and then I'll bring you next week." So art has always been a major part of my life. So yeah.
That's very cool. You talk about how things evolve to kind of capturing this motion, and that being kind of the focus on some of your work is where it's progressed. How would you characterize your art style and aesthetic? You talked about having an affinity for these abandoned places and locales that maybe time forgot or is in shambles a little bit, and then matching it with the beauty of this motion. How would you describe it?
I don't really like. To me, it's sort of those places have been forgotten to time. Like they've been abandoned. Nobody wants them. And part of what I was drawn to about painting in those spaces is obviously, you know, there's very little chance of you actually getting in trouble for painting in somewhere where nobody actually cares about. But when I started building the sculptures, and I mean, it's only a very subtle animation that I'm putting on it, but it kind of gives a presence to the location, as if, you know, it might be forgotten, but there's still something there. And it's more trying to capture a vibe about the place rather than trying to, you know, tell a direct story. And some people get that vibe, some people don't. I've been told by a lot of people over the last few months that, you know, what I've been doing is super unique, and you know, like the current market maybe isn't directed towards stuff that's kind of, I suppose, on that more fine art realm. But like I've been hearing that for years through the street art and graffiti. Like, what I was painting was definitely not typically graffiti style, and I'd be the first person to admit that. But it was what I was painting, and I was happy painting it. And, you know, some graffiti purists were against it. Some, like, really old school graffiti writers loved it. So yeah, it's like, I don't know. It's always been hard for me to verbalize why I do what I do, but it's essentially more about vibe than trying to tell a direct story.
Yeah, I think it's fascinating because, like you said, you kind of straddle two worlds a little bit, right? Like you're in the fine art realm with an edge, and I think some of those locales that you choose and the way that you create the scene definitely gives it that edge. So you make maybe people in both realms, some traditionalists, a little bit uncomfortable, which,
Yeah.
you know, by my impression would be, you know, one of the marks of great art. Right, when you make people
Hopefully.
react and when you make people feel something, the last thing you want is apathy, and you definitely do not get that at all. So super cool.
I
Thank
mean,
you.
I've always wanted, you know, I don't want everybody to love my work in the same way as I don't want to like everyone's work. I think it has to be a discussion between people, and the more discussion that's brought up, the better the art is. You know, there's a lot of paintings that I really love that when I first saw them, I was like, you know, that's, you know, it's nonsense. It's a blank canvas with a dot in it. You know, that's always the example that's given, but that blank canvas with the dot brings up discussion, and then you start understanding where the artist was actually, what they were doing in the life at the time, or, you know, I don't know. I'm happy that people have discussion about it rather than just say, yeah, it is what it is, and that's it, you know.
Right. And so, you know, moving on to, you know, the exhibition that you're putting together, it's starting to all make sense to me why you would choose to work with Mend and what they do. If you could you take a couple minutes just explain to us, you know, what Mend is about, what's Subset, and why you decided to partner with them for this exhibition you have coming up?
Well, Mend and Subset are, you know, they're very closely tied. Subset would traditionally have been, like, they would organize a lot of murals and various shows, and they would be fairly controversial in, you know, they're constantly fighting with councils when at the same time the council is commissioning them to do certain projects. And then Mend have just, they're I guess their thing is they're trying to take these abandoned buildings and then, because I mean, I don't know what areas other people are from in the Discord there, but like in Ireland and especially in the cities, there's tons of abandoned buildings that are just sitting there rotting, you know, and it's a shame to see that, and especially within the art world, because, you know, there's only a few galleries, and I think the conversation we had last night is a lot of the time there's a gatekeeper there, and if you're not in the clique, you don't get through the gate. So they're trying to take these abandoned space and build up this like creative community that I mean, it was kind of said last night that if you have an idea, throw it at them, and there's a very good chance that they will talk about it, and it's not going to be a definite no, but there will be conversation there, and it's kind of refreshing to see that in a space that is, my experience is, if you don't rub shoulders with the right people, you just don't get the opportunities. And I guess that's what's been so powerful about the NFT space, is those gatekeepers are kind of redundant, because the power is kind of going straight to the artists. I understand that there's a platform involved and you have to get into the platform, but the power is in the artist's hands. And I think this whole space is kind of shaking up the entire art world in a way, and it'll be very interesting to see what happens when the traditional art world tries to transition over to it, because traditionally a gallery would have taken 50% of sales, whereas a platform has taken 10 to 15%. Sorry, I'm rambling a bit there, but Mend is basically this community driven creative bubble of, like, I mean, we put this show together. We were trying to raise funds for the past month, but we essentially put the show together in like 10 days. So those guys work crazy. So it's been a good fit.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I love the things that you touched on about artist empowerment through the NFT space, because it's such a paradigm shift for artists, for the traditional art world as well. And they're trying to adapt, right? Some of these powerhouse traditional, curators and art houses are trying to hold auctions of Bored Apes and other things to try to say, hey, we're here, and hiring people that are embedded in the community. So I think it's having an impact that hopefully has some longevity with those guys. Interesting.
I'm definitely not against the traditional art world. I don't think the traditional art world is going to die. I think it's just, this is a new branch of art.
Right.
The way that I view it, it's not going to kill physical paintings. It'll just be a different audience.
Right. You talk about gatekeepers, and you talk about, the traditional art world. There's been conversation over several of our interviews of the past couple of days. There was an instance where people were in a discussion forum, whether it was Clubhouse or Twitter Spaces, and inevitably, when these discussions included people from the traditional art world, one of their comments is, well, the issue with the NFT space is there's no critics. And people are like, you mean there's no one telling us what is good and what's bad? And it's really up to the people that are enjoying the art. Like, yes, that is different. It's empowering, and it's removing some of the obstacles that exist now. So I love that you guys want to focus on that. And that's a big driving force for this initiative and what you want to do. Yeah.
I mean, I'd love to see it kind of spread across everywhere, because, generally the shows I've done have been self-driven. Like early on in this project, there was a little bit of friction. I think it was purely from my side. Like, I'm not used to working with other people. All the shows that I would have done generally would have been myself, like, pumping through all the work and doing the whole setup. I might have had hand off my brother or whatever, but like this time there was, other people to help with doing various things, or, reaching out to different people and all that sort of stuff. So it was kind of good to share that load. And like the artists involved, everybody has kind of been like, is there anything I can do to help? But I haven't taken much help off people, because I don't know what I can ask them to do. Like, they've done their work, and as long as they put out a tweet about it and they're happy with their work being shown, it's awesome to be that kind of I don't know, catalyst is the word to make that happen. Because I guess a lot of people maybe that entered NFT space without a traditional background would never have exhibited their work before. So it's interesting for them.
Yeah, for sure. Can you talk to me a little bit about Comhartha and how this came about thematically? What were your thought process on putting it together? How it came together?
So I suppose just because of my background in the traditional art world, like a physical exhibition was something that I was going to do. And I kind of had been speaking about it, I guess, since maybe March, maybe earlier. I don't know. But, you know, I met with a few contemporary galleries and spoke to a few, and it was very close with one, and they were kind of like, oh yeah, leave it with us, and we'll have a think about it. And I was like, I can leave it with you, but I really want to move on it. And they never got back to me. But the whole time I'd been speaking to the lads at Mend, and it was just sort of a natural fit. And they have a current show that just opened a few weeks ago, and then we looked at the backspace and we were like, this is a really nice space. You know, it's this kind of it used to be a car dealership, so the room that the show is in was where the mechanics all worked. So it's this kind of like grimy industrial looking room with like exposed vents and pipes and stuff, and then you have this like really nice contrast with the displays and stuff. So yeah, so it kind of started back in March, and it was really only, I would say, maybe 2 months ago we really started like saying let's do it, you know. And then it was a month ago we were like, yeah, let's actually do it, and like figured out how much money we needed to do it. You know, reached out to a bunch of places, and unfortunately it never came in, but Mend ponied up the funds for a few screens, and in the, like, we had already got all the artists involved, and the artists were, I'd made it clear to them, you know, like, we don't have any money, we don't have any screens, but we're going to make this happen. And both myself and Mend were like, one way or another, this is going down. And yeah, so here we are 4 weeks later at the opening. Yeah.
Wow, incredible that it came together like that, right? Just basically an idea, no funding and no backing, and you know, the power of you guys' art collectively, and the mission of Mend, you know, move things forward. So that's very cool to see. And Comhartha means token in Irish, is that correct?
Token in Irish, yeah.
Okay. And so the show runs the month of October.
Yeah, I think it's, the plan is to run for a month. I'm not sure exactly how the opening is going to be, like, outside of the opening night, because we still have like COVID restrictions here. So I know their show at the moment is you kind of have to book a slot.
Okay.
You go down, and I think they have like a keypad at the front, and you ring it and put in a code, and they let you in for, like, I don't know, half an hour, 40 minutes, and I guess you can go look at everything and spend your time. And it's kind of cool because you're by yourself then. There's nobody milling around you or anything, which is one thing I always disliked about going into a silent gallery, is like you and the gallerists sitting at the table watching, you know. So
Right.
yeah.
So that's actually kind of cool. You can get your own private showing, especially in that setting, though, right? Because it adds to the feel, I think, of abandonment of the space.
Yeah.
You know, being that juxtaposition of the modern, you know, with the screens and whatnot and the art displayed versus, you know, this kind of left in shambles location.
Yeah. It's so perfect. And you know, me personally, the space looks amazing when it's dark. So it's kind of really suited as well, because at the time of year here, it kind of gets, at the moment, it's getting dark at about 7:30. So like in the next few weeks, it'll be dark earlier and earlier. So if people are coming straight from work, they can see it in the best lighting.
Very cool. And so let's talk about Subset. What is Subset specifically? Is that a group of Irish artists, or I noticed you mentioned the exhibition's international as well?
Yeah, so Subset is I think it's all Irish, or at least, yeah, I'm pretty sure they're all Irish. And yeah, they've just for years they've painted murals around Dublin, and actually they have done murals overseas, and they did a huge exhibition a few years ago called the Grey Area Project, which was sort of a battle against the council. The council was demanding that they paint over their murals which the community loved, like the one on the thing on the screen there. And the council was saying, right, you have to paint this over, or like we're going to bring you to court, and I don't know what the penalty is or whatever. But they, as far as I understand, painted over a few, and then stood their ground on a few because, the kind of, it doesn't really make sense, the argument from the council's side, because they're commissioning artists to paint murals around the city without abiding by the rules that they're saying that Subset and other artists aren't abiding by. So it's kind of like a double standard. But yeah, I think I've gone off on a tangent there again. But yeah, majority Irish and yeah, mural street art based, but they also have like photographers and musicians and stuff. So it's kind of it's just a creative collective.
Yeah, no, definitely. Very, very cool. I pulled up some of the artists that you had highlighted on your Twitter as being part of it. Before we move on through some of them, could you tell us a little bit about your pieces that are part of this?
Yeah, so I have 4 pieces, I think, in. There's The Provider, which was my favorite piece from my first series. And I personally, I think it's like the strongest image out of the bunch. It's on the top right there. Then there's The Presence was another one, that was the second last in the series. And then I can't remember exactly which other 2 I picked. But they're all existing renders that I had, and they're animations rather than the stills. I just kind of wanted to take advantage of the screens rather than, if it's a still, the stills look good, but just to have that little bit of movement. One of them is the silence in the hallway, so it's the middle one there on the bottom. And then I can't remember what the 4th one is off the top of my mind.
Okay. And so these have already been released. Oh, you actually still have some available, right? So if people were interested, they can scoop them on Makersplace. And is that a common thread throughout these artists? Is that they're on Makersplace? Because I think I found profiles for many of them.
Yeah. So Makersplace, we said we were going to do this landing page. So there's, I think, 8 or maybe 9, I don't know, between 7 and 9 artists on there. There's a couple that are still going through the verification process before they can actually mint. So
okay,
hopefully they'll be able to. There's one in particular called Black Noise, and I was messaging him earlier, and I was like, I've tried to push it through with Makersplace, so it's minted. It just needs to appear on their platform. And then there's, I think, 7 artists that are on Hickenunk and OpenSea, I think is, and maybe Rarible as well.
Okay. Yeah, I have a few of them that you had highlighted up here. So some very cool thematic work. I don't know if you'd want to touch them, or I could just kind of scroll through them when you kind of talk about the group itself.
Yeah. So the one on the screen there is by a guy called Discrete from Australia. He's a really well-known street artist. I've known him for years. Yeah, his thing is he paints these owls, loves these owls. And I'd love to know if he even knows how many of those things he's painted around the world, but they're if he's literally just set up his Twitter account for this exhibition. So it's a dead account, but his Instagram is you'll be able to see where he's painted.
Wow, these are fire.
I have a few prints off him from a few years ago. Yeah,
I don't know if this is just the animation or if this is literally an AR thing where you could hold up the device and you can see movement in the art. But if he hasn't done that yet, that's definitely a huge opportunity. This looks so cool.
Yeah, AR thing. Yeah.
And here's another one that you had highlighted as well.
Yeah, so I don't actually know how to pronounce the name. I think it's Mikko or something like this, from Finland.
Okay.
And I absolutely love his work, the more figurative stuff that's just slightly, it's lower down there. So I think the majority is the pieces in the show are kind of the figurative pieces, and I just think that they have such a somber mood to them. Like they're not in the show, but it's that style. I think the one on the right is in the show, but it's like a really somber kind of I don't know, like delicate image or something. But it's
Right.
kind of contrasted with the some of them have like super vibrant colors on them there.
Right. It's definitely jarring and makes you think and feel. And here's some of his OpenSea work as well.
Yeah, so he has he's done this collection of aliens, alienated, I think it's called. Yeah.
Very cool. And here's another as well. Orange Knot, I believe, is the name.
Oh, that's Patrick. Motion Sickness is his Twitter. But yeah, I was saying to him, I really like the black ones. So he has that piece, and then he has what's called Black, and then Bar, I think, are the other two that he has. But they're like they almost disappear into the screen. So the top left, and then I think down and to the right are the two he has in the show. But yeah, they like disappear into the screen, and they kind of just appear like they're floating there. It's I really like they're kind of like hypnotic to look at.
Right, amazing detail there.
And there's Perpetual CGI. He's actually back before. I remember when I kind of started really understanding I could get my stuff into the NFT space. I didn't want to just put it straight on OpenSea, because I think at the time my attitude was sort of like it was if I posted something on there, it would just get lost in the abyss. But that's obviously changed now. But so Perpetual CGI actually gave me my invitation onto Foundation, and the piece is still sitting there that I minted my first. I consider that for me, I only have one Genesis piece. It was like my transition piece from the analog to the digital world, and I minted it, but I didn't list it for sale. And then there's the first piece that I made available is just sitting there. It's kind of hidden away in Foundation, but it is Perpetual CGI is like super good energy in the NFT space, and I think I have a lot of time for him, and he seems to be he seems to help a lot of people.
Very cool.
And you have A.L. Craigo. He's like this kind of pioneer of GIF art. It's funny, like I would have seen his work from my background in street art. He was like animating murals for artists years and years ago, and I gather that from listening to him talking and chatting, like he's been doing these GIF pieces for a long time, like 8-10 years, and seemingly they've been stolen many times over. But he's like super strong presence in the NFT space as well. And again, like some of his pieces are mind blowing to me. And yeah, it's an honor to have him in the show as well.
Yeah, the line work here is crazy. I can't imagine trying to work all of that.
Yeah, I think seemingly, like, I don't understand how that stuff gets built, but seemingly what he's doing is fairly intricate in terms of building those GIFs.
Right. Yeah, no, amazing stuff.
Yeah, so 2 of those pieces are in, yeah.
And so those were some that you had highlighted, and you said there's a landing page for the exhibition as well.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly. They emailed me the link to the landing page, but I'm not exactly sure where it is on the website.
Okay.
Honestly, I just haven't had the time to hunt it down.
Sure, not a problem. Well, when you do get time, and I know that's probably sparse because you're literally on the road, right?
email it over to you afterwards straight
Yeah,
away.
yeah, flip it over to me, and I'm sure our community, they're already asking questions on how they can follow up on all of the artists and more details about it. So we'd definitely like to have that. Thematically, all the artists that I've seen so far, and the space and everything, it really seems cohesive. And so you guys did a great job putting it all together and making it seem like something. If I wish I was there and was able to visit personally.
Yeah, well, come on over. We're always open.
Right, right. So what do you guys hope to achieve with this exhibition?
Well, from men's point of view, they were saying just basically to inspire other people to, not be afraid to enter the space. And I think a big thing about this NFT space is the first reaction that I keep getting is, I don't get it. And that was my first reaction. And I wish I had someone like me telling myself, go and learn about it, like understand it, because this thing is, in my opinion, it's going to absolutely revolutionize, our day-to-day lives in a matter of years. So basically just try and inspire other people to enter the space, whether they're kids that have an interest in art, or well-established artists that have a long-standing path in the world. It's like, I think people just need to learn about what it is that's actually going on and get involved. So that I guess that's the main aspect, to educate and expose people to something that they probably have never seen, or might have heard about the Beeple sale, but try and help them understand that.
Right. And definitely, when you bring it to people in a physical sense, that helps bridge the gap a little bit because it's more tangible for them at the onset. But certainly seeing you guys do it can be a catalyst for, other artists and other people that are interested to explore it, be exposed to it, and just get engaged with the whole digital space.
Yeah, definitely.
And likewise, from a it seems like, I don't know, is it a different type of environment there in Ireland with regards to the arts and what's valued by the culture? Because it seems like you're getting a little bit of pushback, right, with the street artists and with Subset, and you're talking about people not getting it, and this is not unusual. This is something we experience all over the place. But I'm interested to hear the particular nuances of where you're at. Obviously, having a physical gallery is going to have more of a different impact than just doing something digitally.
Yeah, I mean, like my experience of the art world is, I don't know, like I always just sort of had this opinion: if you're not in the clique, you're not gonna be involved. And I didn't want to spark up false relationships with people that I don't know or don't necessarily get on with. I just want to do my work. Like, I'm happy to grind out daily, just doing it's like breathing for me. I have to do it. I can't live without it. And like Ireland, I guess, as a nation, historically is a massively creative nation. And I suppose one of the things we also hope is to try and reinvigorate that creative flame in people that maybe has gone down a little bit over time. Because we were saying last night that if this exhibition was happening in LA or New York, or somewhere bigger, it would be huge, whereas it's in Ireland, so it might go unnoticed. And like, we've reached out to like plenty of people in the art world here, and they're like, oh, I can't make it, or it's not for me, or I might call in later in the month or whatever. And that's sort of the vibe is, if it's not an exhibition by X artist, why would they want to go? Because they're not going to be seen by in that circle or whatever. Whereas I think the people that are going to go tonight are going to be really excited to see it, because it's something that they've seen happening in New York and they've seen happening in LA and around the world, and now it's in their hometown that they can come and be a part of it.
The irony is, we know that in some time, and whether that's 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, those same people that said, yeah, I'd rather not, are going to be like, I wish I had gone, then I would have been in on earlier than my peers here. So that's definitely interesting to see. How could people outside of Ireland support the gallery and the mission and what you guys are trying to do?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously you can support me financially by buying my work. Mend have a donation wallet, I believe, on the website that they're accepting donations, because we're obviously planning to continue this and do other group shows and work on solo shows. And like, I've already spoken to Illuspace about doing an AR exhibition across the city, and kind of having that as the starting point for the treasure trail kind of thing. And then there's an analog music label launching tonight that they're minting the cassettes and stuff like that. And sorry, I think I'm rambling again.
No, that's perfect. That's perfect.
Basically, they've got a donation wallet, and obviously you can support any of the artists by purchasing the work. And obviously that's a massive booster when an artist makes a sale.
Right. So, obviously everyone can support the artists, and we will link to the landing page so people can explore the various ones in the exhibition. Hopefully there's some more media maybe we can check that comes out of it. I don't know if you guys are planning something virtually as well to be a representation.
Yeah, I'm actually, I have a 1-to-1 scale replica of the gallery that I was planning to build a VR version that anybody can go to online, but I just ran out of time. So I'm going to try and get that done next week, and then people will be able to come and visit virtually.
Very cool. Well, I know that you have an appointment at the gallery actually and need to get there. So if you don't mind, we have a few questions from the audience. I'd love to just grab a few select ones and then not hold you for too long, but they are asking me to relay some of these to you.
Okay.
So someone wants to know, have you made any of the objects from your recent work into physical sculptures, or do you plan to do that?
That is something I have dreamed about doing literally for 10 years. Obviously when I finished college, I was going to go into bronze. So when I was painting, I was imagining these things as 3D objects. I was always interested in what the backside of it looked like. And then when I left that, and when I left sculpture behind, it was always, in the back of my mind, and I always kind of visualized building these sculptures in pulled glass was the medium that I was imagining. But obviously to produce something at that scale in pulled glass it's going to cost a fortune for me to try and do, but it's definitely something I would, if someone wanted to commission something like that, I would absolutely dive at the opportunity.
Very cool. Maybe even, in short-term experimenting with 3D printing might be cool.
Yeah,
although I don't know the limitations of that or how possible it is.
I've spoken to a couple of places about that, and they were saying there is one, actually, so there's one method I could use, I think, that can get the filament down quite sharp. So I could probably make a piece maybe 12 to 15 inches tall. And then my brother works at a Formula One company, so he was trying to get me access to one of the titanium 3D printers. So
nice.
That'd be great. That was possible. I doubt that'll ever happen.
Someone asks, do you have any special criteria that needs to be met when you choose a space to work with, when you're choosing some of these abandoned spaces? What do you look for?
Not generally. Obviously, where I'm taking the photos, I want it to be a nice composition, or like, it's interesting because a lot of the photos that I was taking, 5 or 6 years ago, were of empty spaces, and the sculptures just slot straight into it. Whereas now, when I go to the spots, I'm consciously taking photos and focusing for the area that I want the sculpture to go into. So like, as I'm in the area, I'm imagining where the sculpture is going to be, but there's no strict criteria. Just if a location seems interesting, or there's an object in the room that brings a little bit of focal point to the image or whatever. It's but also, yeah, I kind of want it to be an empty space, so you don't want too much happening in the frame.
Right. Someone asked, how many abandoned spaces have you reinvigorated with your painting?
I don't know. So I've actually, a few weeks ago, I was kind of playing with the idea of, like, one of the things with blockchain that I'm really interested in is that obviously the work is logged there indefinitely, or as long as energy is around and the IPFS system is live or whatever. But I was losing images of this work to dead hard drives and lost files and all that sort of stuff, and I was kind of playing with the idea of minting all of the walls that I had ever painted, because I'm fairly sure I've taken a photo of every single wall, and kind of either putting it up on a single collection on OpenSea, or breaking it up into different themes, or something like that. But I would say hundreds. Like, it's a lot of photos.
Wow. Yeah, that would be very cool. I'm looking at some of this work and it's just, I'm shaking my head at the amount of specificity and detail that's intertwined here. And I love,
you're on the archive page, and
yeah,
they were the photos that I just had at hand, like in one folder at the time. I was like, I can't be bothered digging through the old hard drives.
I mean, but I love it because it really exemplifies that juxtaposition of fine art with the movement sculpt that you have painted there, as well as the street art with the traditional graffiti lettering and color elements. It's incredible stuff. I don't think I've seen anything like this.
Yeah, so the letters are there by a guy called Rask. He's like a hugely respected, like, Irish graffiti writer, but he's like hugely respected within the whole graffiti world, and like within the New York wild style community and all that sort of stuff. So he's an absolute legend, and I was hoping to get him involved in the show. I haven't seen it. I actually haven't seen him, I'd say, since before COVID. So he was saying he was going to come tonight. I'm not sure if he will, but I would love to see him enter the space, because, like, he's got images of graffiti from, like, back in the 80s and stuff. Like, logging that stuff in the system is what I find that, like, super interesting, that it's there. And in 100 years, when all the files are gone and the photos have deteriorated, they'll be in a, like, perfect example of what existed at that time.
Right. Well, if you do see him tonight, let him know that the NFT community gave you guys this collaboration. Props for sure.
We talked about doing another one of them. That was like, I don't know. That was probably like I don't know. It must have been like 7 years ago or something. We've been talking about doing another one since.
Yeah, in that vein, one of the community members had asked, do you have any collaborations in the work with traditional artists or NFT artists that we should be on the lookout for?
No, but there is a few artists that I really want to, and it's only recently I've been kind of thinking, I'd actually really like to work with a couple of people, and I don't want to name any names because I haven't actually, like, reached out to anyone properly yet. But, like, there's one another artist that we've kind of spoken a couple of times now, and it seems that we've had a very, very similar path to where we're at, and I think his work is amazing. I think a blend of both of our styles could be like really could be something special. So hopefully go for it.
Very cool. And did I see this right? You have an NFT that basically tokenizes the rights for the holder to have you come paint a mural locally. Is that what I saw?
Yeah, that was kind of an experiment because I hadn't seen anyone do it. So basically, if the person buys the NFT, they basically can redeem it, and I'll travel out to wherever they want to paint a wall, whether it's in their house, their office, or like as long as it's legal. I'll travel. Hopefully, the buyer isn't like some, I don't know, shady gangster or something. But
Yeah.
and it's trying to use the tokens in interesting ways or something.
Yeah, no, I love that you're really on the forefront of utility between the AR and VR experiences that you're doing and the way you're crafting your work, as well as experiential stuff with the artist. Super dope to see you push the boundaries that way. Another person had a question relative, and this may be for men, you may not know offhand, but will these mended spaces also be available for local performing arts organizations to use after shows and things of that nature?
I would say if whoever's asking that question, I would say if it's for them, I would say definitely get in contact with them. I think that's what they're trying to build, is an avenue for creative individuals to explore ideas that they have, and something that it's one thing that's kind of missing from Dublin is Ireland in general is if you go to any other city, there's smaller galleries run by artists, and then you have like more established galleries, then you have like bigger contemporary galleries, and then you have a huge gallery. Whereas here it's kind of like there's no artist run galleries. There's a couple of contemporary galleries that seem to be kind of closed off, and then you have the National Gallery. That's for a nation that's so creative, it's just kind of seems really stunted.
Right. Well, that's, they're blessed to have you reinvigorating things and introducing people to this realm that's, on the forefront of pushing art and artistry and artist rights and everything else right now. So, thanks to you for advocating that, not only where you're at, but internationally, because your work is incredible. And thank you so much for taking some time this afternoon to talk with us about both your work and the gallery that you had put together with all of these amazing artists. We will be sure to share all of the links to your socials and to the gallery itself in our Discord, as well as on our Twitter, so people can follow up. Any parting messages for the group, or anything that you like people to hone in on?
No, I wish everybody could come and see the show and be part of this little bit of Irish history that we're taking part in tonight. But I guess I'll build up the VR space, and then they can kind of at least have a little sample of it. And yeah, I mean, if anyone in the groups or anywhere that this is going out to has any questions for me, just fire it over, or give me a shout, and we can set up a call. I'm always open to have a chat with people, and happy to help anyone that's trying to get somewhere.
Great. Well, Eoin, thank you so much. The show is called Comhartha. I think they open last night, or tonight is the opening?
Not tonight, yeah. So it's actually supposed to open in 5 minutes, but
okay. Well, we will definitely.
It's fine.
We will definitely let you go. We don't want to be responsible for any tickets that are going to be had on your way there. Thank you so much for taking the time today, and have a great opening.
No, it was it's just like it was open at 6 for the people that were coming straight from work, but it'll be as the light goes down is when it's gonna take off. So I'll head over now and get everything set up, and we'll be flying by 7 o'clock.
Well, you were an all-star, my friend, so it's good to be fashionably late.
That's it, yeah.
Take care. Have a good one.
Thanks very much. Cheers.